Are you excited about Dirty Fest?
I'm so excited about Dirty Fest.
I
Are
have
you
kids.
excited?
Uh, I'm always excited about Dirty Fest. What's not to be excited about it?
Well, to be fair, I am always excited about Dirty Fest.
Yeah,
I am always looking forward to, I say this, and it's not just because I know the people there, but legitimately, it is our family's favorite event of the year, hands down.
yeah,
And that is my sales pitch to absolutely everyone of just come for the good times because
right.
there is nothing like it for the kids to be able to camp on site, for the kids to have the freedom to run around, for them to make friends. It's an entire weekend of eating snacks and hanging out and riding bikes, and
Yeah,
what's not to
I,
love?
I, I don't think I've seen your kids off their bikes at Dirty Fest. They've been literally on the bikes for like, well, you're there early, and they're on their bikes for like a solid probably 6 or 7 days. So
Yeah. Yeah, they're constantly going around. Every once in a while, I'll go back to the trailer and I'll see them eating snacks or
yeah,
passed out on the couch.
yeah, right. I'm
But
I'm I'm jealous of their energy. I wish I had like half of it.
it's true. Yeah, we put them through it at the Texas vintage race that Mike came down to. The kids on the Saturday, they both raced the state race at DeSoto, and then I don't know, 300 feet away was the old school track, and they did the state race and they did the pit bike race, and they were running back and forth. And I will say, as dad, that was way too much work, way too much trying to manage and
Yeah.
everything. But then the next day they were a little bit tired, and then we came back. They raced on Sunday for old school, and then came back to Tulsa, and they immediately went into spring break BMX camp. And it got to Friday morning, and Ashlyn goes, "Mom, a whole week was a lot."
That's awesome.
So yeah,
That's
but
awesome.
all that to come back to, we are stoked for Dirty Fest.
Awesome. That's great. Yeah, it's we're the four of us are yeah, it's getting to the nitty-gritty now. So,
That's exciting. I've
yeah,
talked to Mike about some details, and he's like, I can't tell you this, but I can tell you this. And I won't tell you this, but I'll tell you this. And
right.
so there's some anxiety, some positive, exciting anxiety
Yeah.
that's building.
Yeah. I think we're getting ready to release the drawing of the new track. It's coming up soon.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, that's what I didn't want to say anything about it, but yeah, I've heard of what it's
Yeah.
going to be,
Yeah.
but I've not seen anything.
Well,
So
we're gonna have another cool old school drawing of the track like we did last year. And I'm not sure when we're releasing it, but it's coming up soon.
BMX Breakthrough is bridging the gap from old school to new school, from tracks to manufacturers, from new riders to their local tracks, and it doesn't stop at racing, but the mission is to connect people with bikes. Join me, Jay Oaks, as I interview key people in the sport and in the industry that are involved in their local circles, in their communities, at their local tracks, and aiming to make a difference on a local level. You'll hear stories, marketing tips, failures, successes, and a way to make a difference in your local BMX community. Let's dive in as we kick off this next episode. All right. Justin Shepard, you have been a phenomenal supporter of what we're doing since the beginning, and you are always so encouraging. And I wanted to have this conversation with you because you have a unique perspective because you grew up with a dad who was a track operator
I did.
and
And, and a bike shop owner.
and a bike shop owner. Okay.
And that was just his side hustle. He his real job, he was an attorney.
Oh,
So so he was spread really thin, but um he always had time for me and my BMX activities. So I was very, very lucky. I would not have had the opportunities or the success without my dad. He was
Love that.
110% involved. He loved going to the races as much as I did. Um, he became kind of a fixture on the East Coast scene, and when we traveled to nationals, he was always on the infield taking photographs. So, I was lucky enough to um, have a great dad that was really into it. And he's gone now, but he left me with thousands of photographs of not just me, but of everybody that was out there at all these races. So that was kind of cool little legacy he has. So
That's cool.
yeah,
Wow. So I am really curious. So are they all in? Are they in photo albums or are they just like
no, no,
bundles of
there.
photos?
Most of them are slides, and Craig Allen uh, with the 80s BMX Facebook page, he has all of them now, and he's been slowly scanning them and posting them on that Facebook page. He had to take he's had to take a little bit of a break from it because he's had some stuff going on with health, but he's doing well now, and I'm sure he'll get back to it eventually. It's nice to just trickle them out there, not have a huge dump, because then everybody can see them, and they don't get lost in the shuffle because there's so many to look at. But he's working on it.
I love that. That's cool. And to have something that you leave behind like that. I mean, the West Coast had had a few different magazines, but Oz was a huge fixture on the West Coast
Right,
scene and has cataloged and archived so many photos. And to have each of those people, there were multiple photographers obviously around the
right,
country that were taking pictures of this stuff, but there's something special and dynamic about being able to come back to these photos from the beginning of a sport
right.
and I've talked with multiple people. I just said it in the last episode with Nick Scott is that there aren't many sports where you actually get to meet the founding riders or pros or
Right.
industry leaders of a sport. And BMX, you can still see that. And so to still have access to all these photos that your dad took, man,
Yeah.
that's
Well,
special.
it's funny. It's because like I'm 57 years old, and when I go to Dirty Fest, I'm still in awe of these guys that show up who were my heroes when I was a kid. Like Stu Thompson and Perry Kramer and Clint Miller, and and Mike Miranda. He's a friend of mine, and we were on the same team. But it's just this long list of my heroes, and now we're just a bunch of old guys that still love the sport we participated in when we were young. But yeah, I still get starstruck at Dirty Fest and some of the other events we go to. Um, so it's kind of cool. I get a little giddy, and sometimes I want my picture taken with somebody. But it's cool. They're all great. They're I can't think. Yeah, it's a great family that we're involved in these days, and we're lucky that we can get together and kind of shoot the breeze and hang out. That's why we do it. It's the Dirty Fest. We wanted it to be a reunion more than anything else, and then there just happens to be a race and a show and a swap meet and a party, and it's mostly about the reunion. So
You're not putting on a BMX event for the money.
yeah, no, no. What, honestly, like we the money that's generated by the previous events gets rolled right over into the next event, because we want to make every year we want to make it better than the previous year. And I think we did that with year two, and I'm hoping, and I think we can do it with year three. um we're trying to make uh infrastructure better, and you know, some more bathrooms. Like everybody loves our bathrooms there because they're air conditioned and clean, but we're gonna add some more so there's not such a hike to some of the bathrooms. And you know, we're gonna do some other things. We're working on doing a live stream of the event and
Oh,
other,
wow.
you know, other things. You know, we have a long laundry list of things we're trying to add to the event. It's hard because we only have 3 days to cram all this stuff into this event that we do. So
And it is an action-packed weekend.
it is, you know, and
There are I don't understand how you guys do this because I find myself incredibly tired at the event. I mean, having a good time and stuff, but the amount that you and JV and Mike and EC sleep is remarkable to me because you
yeah.
don't.
No, well, the cool thing for me is when I'm there, I'm on East Coast time still, so I'm not normally an early riser, but when I'm there, I am. So I can get a lot done. You know, I stay up late, like West Coast time, but I still get up early, like East Coast time. So you know,
But it all works out.
we're just a good team. The four of us, we each have things that we're good at, and you know, EC is the track builder. You know, he makes a great track that's fun and not dangerous, which is important when you're old. And you know, he's Mike Miranda. You know, that's
He's a showman.
he's a showman, but he has his hands in every part of the event. James, he's the tech guy and the smart guy out of the four of us probably. And then I kind of just do whatever I need to do to make things happen and sort of you know, sometimes I'm trying to keep Mike on task because he likes to spread himself too thin, and but you know, we're all kind of guilty of that. But anyway, it's just a good team, and it's worked out so far, you know. And
I would say like Mike, there's something special about that guy because I've been I've run a number of events and I've been in a situation where in settings where Mike is and I mean I don't want to brag on him to his face because I think that would be weird. So if he hears this, it is what it is. But when somebody comes up to him, he will be in the middle of something and I have never heard the guy sound inconvenienced or annoyed by the third, fourth, eighth, 20th person that's coming up asking the same question. And it's like he'll open his laptop, he'll start working on something, somebody will come interrupt him, and he's still so happy. And and I mean, I think that's partly just his personality, and he's also very good at just being there and present with people. But not everybody puts on that same front when they even if he is annoyed. I don't see it, which I think is really cool.
now he saves all that for us. No, really, he's Mike is able to multitask and remain Mike. You know, he's as long as I've known him, he's always been like that. You know, even when I was a a young kid on CW, and um, he when I first got on CW, he treated me with respect and like and made me feel like I was really important, which was awesome. You know, and he does that for everybody. Um,
Yeah.
and that's how he truly feels that way too. It's not just an act. You know, everybody that has any kind of contact with Mike, they are important to him, and not everybody's like that, but that's truly Mike. So
Yeah. Well, that's the conversation in episode 34 that I did with Mike Miller, and we talk about you and we talk about Mike and
yeah,
and that I mean I just thought it was so cool that you guys knew each other when him and I were at the track and I was talking and he's like, "Oh yeah, I know Mike and this is how I met Justin," and he's
yeah.
telling
Isn't
me
that a
that
weird?
story.
That's a weird story, isn't it?
It is. Yeah. And then his first
Yeah,
experiences of getting to meet Mike and getting to ride with
yeah.
Mike. and and just that dynamic of who Mike is. I mean, you
Right.
speaking right now to you meeting Mike and him being so helpful and kind, and that's the exact same experience that Mike Miller spoke to.
Yeah. So
So
he's always been that way. So,
yeah.
you
Well,
know.
if we're not careful, we might just turn this into the Talk About Mike Miranda
He, oh,
podcast.
he loves it. He loves it.
He does.
Hey, this is Hollywood Mike Miranda from the BMX Breakthrough Oh, no, I'm sorry. From the Dirty Knobs podcast. If you love BMX like we love BMX, then you need to get to DirtyFest, June 6th, 7th, and 8th. It's where we celebrate all great things BMX. It's the big BMX family reunion. Again, June 6th, 7th, and 8th in Temecula, California. For more information, go to www.dirtyfest.com.
But so you rode for CW.
Mhm.
So what did your racing career look like?
So I started in like summer of 79, I think, or summer of 80. I can't remember. It's a long time ago. Uh, um, but honestly, we used so we used this is how it all started. I'll try to keep it brief, but um, we used to go to this pharmacy to pick up, medications every now and then, and they had a great magazine section, and I would always go to the magazine section while my mom or dad were waiting for their prescription to be filled. And one time when I was there, I saw this BMX magazine called BMX Action, of course, and I think I still have the issue because I have a stack of magazines from that era. But I saw the magazine and I started flipping through the pages, and I was like, "This is what I want to do." And at the time, I had a Schwinn mag scrambler, and actually, if you look at the that bike sitting up there,
Oh yeah.
that's not the exact same bike, but it is a bike just like I had. It was yeah, mag scrambler, and I rode with my buddies in the neighborhood, and I saw this magazine, and I was like, yeah, I want to do this. I want to go race. And so my dad um, tried to figure out where there was a BMX race. This is pre-internet, so it was a little bit more difficult to figure out where to go race. I think he may have called the ABA because there was an ad in the magazine for the ABA back then, and there was a track in Fairfax, Virginia, which was about 2 hours north. It's near Washington D.C., and I live in Central Virginia in Richmond, and so we went up there one day, and um, I raced, and it was awesome. And the track operator was this guy named Bob Miles, who had two kids that raced, Rob Miles and Christine Miles, and they had relocated from like I think Chandler, Arizona, of all places, to DC because his dad was in the IT world in the early days, and Rob and Christine raced in Arizona, and he was very good. He was a factory Schwinn rider. But anyway, they relocated to Northern Virginia, and his dad opened up a BMX track, and that was the first place I ever raced.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. And then how old did you say you were? And then how long did you race for?
I raced from like 79-ish to I did a little bit of racing in 85. And then I went off to college after high school. I graduated high school in 85.
Okay.
But I was on the tail end. I got hurt at the NBL Grands in 84 and had a difficult time trying to make a comeback from it. And it just kind of, I don't know, just kind of lost interest. I ended up resigning from CW, because I wasn't performing, and I was kind of losing interest and motivation, and I felt like it wasn't fair to represent a team like that, but suck. I basically sucked, So
So self-selected your way out.
yeah, kind of. It was, it was in the cards. There was another rider that was my age on the team, Jarrett Justice, and the dude was blazingly fast, and he was performing. And hey, that's reality. I'm not bitter in any way. In fact, Jarrett and I are friends. And he was killing it, and I was done. So.
Okay. How did that come about? What was the process of you getting picked up by CW?
So, um, I I raced a lot locally, and then to try to kind of get better competition. I think I turned expert. I can't remember if you needed to have 3 wins or 5 wins um, to turn expert, but I got them immediately. In fact, I think um, I think I turned expert in like 5 races or 3 races, whatever it was. But anyway, um, we ended up traveling more out of state. Like we'd go up to Maryland or New Jersey to get some better competition, and we'd go up there for like triple points or double points races or whatever. And then we started to go to nationals, and I was a privateer. And I started to, do well, and I won a few nationals, and I ended up, I think my first year, was it 81? I think my first year racing nationals, like to enough nationals to get a national number plate was 81. And I think I got national number 6. And it was, I don't think I had like the skills of an expert, but I had the determination. um, because I just still remember like making kind of mistakes and not having a good handle on racecraft, but I still did pretty well. But so anyway, um, 82 comes around. Where's it? Late 81. Can't remember. It's foggy on the timeline. But there was a big ABA national in Maryland, and I, like every kid, I wanted a sponsor. I wanted to be a guy in a magazine. I wanted to have the cool uniform and the bikes and all that kind of stuff. And so this ABA national in Maryland, this track I'd raced at, a bunch of times. All the factory teams were there, and I just walked around to all the teams and said, "Hey, you guys need I think it was a 13, yeah, 13 expert." And all of them said, "No, we're good, but thanks for asking." Except one team, and that was CW. And Roger Worsham, who was the owner of CW, happened to be there, and he was nice enough to chat with me, and he said, "I'll tell you what, if you triple at this national, we'll have a place for you on the team." And I was like, "Okay, that seems fair enough." So what do you think happened? I tripled at the national, and after the race was over, I walked back over to where the CW guys were with my 3 trophies, because I won my expert class, I won the open class, and I won this thing called the trophy dash, which they don't do now. And we try to do a trophy dash at DirtyFest, but we like forget, or the weather screws us up or whatever. But anyway,
Yeah.
so I walked over there with my 3 trophies, and I said, "Mr. Worsham, uh, you remember me? You told me that if I tripled, you'd have a place for me on the team." And he was like shocked. And he said, "Well, I guess you're on the team." And it was sort of like somebody else interviewed me a while back, and I said it's sort of like a Babe Ruth moment, where Babe Ruth like pointed over the wall. It was kind of like that.
At this time, I want to give a special shout out and thank you to our 2025 sponsors who are helping us make the mission of BMX Breakthrough happen, which is to grow the sport at a local level. These sponsors, you can find more about them in the description, and then you can use their coupon codes. And you may be saying, I don't need a coupon code, but I would ask you, please use that coupon code as a way to help us all track what we're doing together. It helps them, it helps us, it helps everyone. So at our gold level, we have Box, Mongoose, and Pro Lids. At the silver level, we have Dan's Comp, LRC, and Pro Start. And at the bronze level, we have Command Aviation, Danger Snacks, Fly Racing, Gear Blocks, Justin Shepard Title Examiner, Lincoln Park BMX, Sign Dog Northwest, Sound Cedar Lumber, and Tasco. Once again, you can follow the links in our description to find out more about these phenomenal brands. You can find the coupon codes for some of them available there. And thank you so much to our 2025 sponsors. Now back to our episode.
But honestly, I was a super shy kid. I was I didn't like talking to people. I was really quiet. But my dad told me, he said, if there's something you want bad enough, you got to figure out a way to do it. My dad was never gonna like talk to people for me or do this for me. He would be supportive of me, but he always taught me that I needed to figure out how to do it myself. And I kind of mustered up the courage to talk to those people that were at the race, because it was something I really, really wanted. And, it worked out.
Wow.
So, yeah.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah. Well, it was, I was very fortunate. Like all the, everything just fell in the right place at the right time.
So, yeah, I mean, it sounds like he essentially gave you what he thought was an impossible challenge, an impossible task.
Yeah, Roger. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I don't know, it's like I still remember it to this day. It was crazy. In fact, we got home, it was like a 3-hour drive home, like a Sunday night, and it was like, okay, did that really just happen? And then,
wow.
and then like, he, while we were there, he got my address and my dad's or home phone number, because there were no cell phones, and he said, I'll be in touch with you, and I'll send you uniform and all this stuff. And a week goes by, 2 weeks goes by, we don't hear anything from him, and I'm like, man, that sucks. And then all of a sudden, a package showed up in the mail, and it was a jersey and a pair of pants. And like, I opened it up, and the jersey fit perfectly, but the pants, they were huge. I think they were like Clarence Perry's pants. They were like used pants. And so for like the first few races, I raced. I had a factory jersey, and I wore jeans, and I wore the old helmet. It was like a blue Bell Moto 3 helmet, and I was on an MCS.
Oh, okay.
So I didn't have a bike yet, and so then I finally sent me a helmet and a bike, and and then some pants that fit.
Nice.
And I felt like finally I felt like it was the real deal. So
that's
yeah,
awesome.
It was cool. Yeah,
that's cool.
Very, very, very lucky guy.
Well, so then as time progressed, your dad ends up becoming a bike shop owner and a track operator, and that's what we had talked about, is because I set out the mission, the focus, the vision for BMX Breakthrough was to help become a resource for track operators. And you and I had this conversation where you had said that you appreciated it just because you saw your dad needing help, needing support, needing needing resources that he didn't have access to or whatever. And so what did that, I mean, I would assume that he probably took it on out of, he was the guy that was there and semi-willing to do it.
Well, he loved the sport, and we did not have the closest track to us was an hour away, and so he felt like there's a better way to do this. Like, there's plenty of kids here that want to race, um, why don't we have a track here? So he figured out a place to build a track. So my dad was a real estate attorney, so he knew people in the real estate world, and he eventually found a place to build the track, which was the old Richmond motorcycle club dirt track, which was in the kind of in the woods, but it was all overgrown, and they weren't using it anymore. So he was able to rent the land from the motorcycle club for basically paying the real estate taxes. So the rent was extremely inexpensive, and they were like, do whatever you want, and so
Wow.
yeah, it worked out. This was the days before. Um, I think a lot of tracks are on public property now. At least, the track that's in Richmond is. It's in a city of Richmond Park. But back then, it was like, you built a track wherever you could, and yeah, it was cool. And then eventually he I guess right around the same time he opened the bike shop as well.
Wow.
So yeah, it was cool, having a local track, and not having to drive an hour or 2 hours to race. It was great.
Yeah. So, what do you see as some of the pieces of being a TO that your dad struggled with? Um,
Uh,
yeah, as he moved forward.
well, the we he did a lot of it. He was very fortunate, and the kids were very fortunate that there was a parent um, that loved to be out there outside maintaining the track, and his name was Roy Doherty. And Roy had two sons, Randy and man, I can't remember Randy's brother's name. But anyway, Mr. Doherty would be out there literally every day, practically during the week, just grooming the track and keeping it ready to race. And that was something that a lot of tracks didn't have back then, was somebody willing to spend that much time out there making sure it was ready to race. And there were other things like other volunteers. It was sometimes it was difficult. Like my mom would be out there sometimes, and other parents would help with registration, and but it was very I don't want to say rudimentary, but there wasn't a lot of infrastructure that was needed back then. It was just like, okay, we need a PA, and we need a starting gate, and we just need people to show up, and that was it. Now it seems like there's a lot of other things you need to run a race. Um,
Well, I
like,
think we like to overcomplicate things.
yeah,
I
that's true.
mean, to be fair, Dirty Fest is a prime example of you don't need a whole lot even to run a race now.
Yeah, but like I think old people like us, we have certain expectations on the comfort level of things. So,
Well, it's
but
it's fair, but I
yeah,
mean, but at the same time, you can you can rent things and yeah, there are amenities that are nice to
yeah.
have, but I think the core of the track
Yeah.
can be far simpler than we
Oh yeah.
try
Yeah.
to make it.
Yeah. I think back then we had one porta potty. That was it.
Yeah.
It was rented, and it pretty much stayed out there the whole season. And I'm not even sure if they ever really pumped it out regularly, but that was it. It's like, and there was no lighting. It was, we had to run during the day. The gate, when we first started, the gate was just a manual wooden gate, and eventually we got a steel gate with some lights and stuff. But it took a long while to get to that point.
Yeah. Which I think it's cool though because BMX is a sport that can be run with really as much money or as little money as you want.
Yeah, yeah,
And I think that I mean, I say it in jest that we overcomplicate it, but I think in reality, in some ways, we can overcomplicate
Mhm.
things. And we start thinking, well, we have to have slurry, we have to have concrete or
Oh
asphalt
yeah, we,
turns.
we we didn't have any of that.
No.
We had Mr. Doherty out there grooming the track.
And
I,
you,
I I can't even tell you how many he did it all by hand with a shovel and a wheelbarrow. Like when we
wow.
built the track, we did use like a backhoe and some heavy equipment, but I think we only somebody offered it to let us use it for like a day. That was it. Like we had to get all the heavy stuff moved in one day, and then Mr. Doherty was out there grooming it, and then whatever other dirt needed to be moved, he did it with a wheelbarrow and a shovel. So
Yeah. And and I think that he was out there grooming the track. I can't speak to your track, but you look back at a lot of those photos and the tracks aren't perfect. They've got
yeah,
ruts, they've got bumps, they've got washed out
well,
turns.
yeah. One of the things though, like when the local track was built, I'd already raced, nationals for a couple years, and I I wanted our local track to be difficult. I wanted kids that raced at our track to be competitive at any other race around the country. So our track it wasn't an easy track. It was had some big jumps and some stuff that I had seen at some of the nationals. Like we had those moonwalker whoop-de-doos like that were at the ABA Grands one year. We had those at our track. And so, we had some other features that we had seen traveling. And then we had an uphill finish straight. So like you had to have some power to get up the hill.
I love that.
Yeah. Yeah. So we did have a lot. We had some kids and some parents complain about it, but in the end, it was good for everybody that was there because if they did decide to go to a national, they were completely prepared for the difficult track.
That's cool.
So yeah,
Oh man, an uphill. Yeah, I've talked
yeah,
about it a little bit, but the my home track, we had a big uphill section. So you'd come down the first straight, you had three features. It was a smaller tabletop at the end of the first straight, and then it was a 90-degree left turn that went up a hill that was like 20 feet tall.
hmm
And then it had a big downhill into at the time what seemed like a big double.
right,
But it was a big double with a big 180-degree bowl turn,
right,
and it was super fun. But I mean, not everyone can get up a hill
hmm yeah,
that easily, so it
yeah,
requires a lot of finesse and technique.
yeah, yeah. It was fun. We had some really big jumps, which those are always fun.
Yeah, that's awesome. So in that, did did the track become? Did you see your dad struggling to like keep the track going?
Um, no, there were always needs. Like,
Yeah.
there was always something that was needed. Um, and I think we were lucky we had parents that were pretty involved and somebody was if we needed something, there was always a connection to be able to acquire what we needed. Um, and the bike shop also kind of supported the track because it was the more people we had at the track, the more people that would come into the bike shop. So it was just sort of this hand in hand relationship that um, I don't know. The bike shop grew and the ridership grew together. So
That's cool. Which
yeah,
is really similar to Paul DePaw, who's up in Illinois and has been running things for 30 years now
yeah,
and has the shop, and people come from the shop and go to the track, and people come
yeah,
from the track, go to the shop, and then
yeah.
um
The track, like the track and the shop, they weren't close. they were way. Like I know there's some tracks that have a bike shop right next to the track, which is kind of cool. I think Howell, New Jersey, is like that, if I remember right.
Oh,
Um, the Central Jersey BMX, I think it's right behind the bike shop there. If I can't remember it. It's I was actually up there last summer, and I think there's a bike shop there, and I think I remember there being a bike shop back there in the 80s. I don't know.
that's
A
cool.
little,
Yeah.
little hazy.
Yeah, Paul's track. I mean, Paul's got three tracks that he runs up there, and the
Yeah,
bike shop is a little ways away from
yeah,
all three of them. But at the same time, he's got the people that come into both,
right.
um and it is neat. And then Paul DePaw is the other person that he runs the trophy dash. So this last year when we did
Oh,
the
okay.
World Series of Concrete,
Yeah,
he ran a trophy dash because he's like, I want to.
yeah,
We don't do those anymore. We're
yeah.
gonna do one of those.
The trophy dashes were cool, man. I raced in not a ton of them, but quite a few. And it was like whenever I got into the trophy dash, it was I think I only won maybe two of them, but um, the ones I did get into, it was like Richie Anderson was always in them. So it was like, okay, well, I guess I'm not going to win that, 'cause he was he dominated our class, and if Richie was at a race, we were racing for second. He was good. The weird thing is, I remember, I think it was like my second or third race after I started racing. The Redline Summer Tour came through and raced at this track, the local track in Fairfax, and Richie Anderson was there along with like Stu Thompson, Brent Patterson, John Cruz. Um, like it was like the Patterson guys, Redline guys. I think Kevin McNeil was there. But anyway, so Richie Anderson, who's my age, was there, except I was a novice. And I saw this guy racing around this track. I was like, holy crap, this dude is fast. And I never thought in a million years that day that I would be racing against him one day and be on the gate with him one day. Um, but I was never as fast as he was. So
Still pretty cool though. I
yeah,
mean,
yeah, yeah.
yeah, being able to be on the gate and to be able to
Hmm.
look ahead, which I think is the exact dynamic that Dirty Fest and the old school events have created for so many people, is that you had that experience as a kid, but
Right.
now I know that my dad being one of them is he's like, I never thought I'd get a chance to line up on the
Yeah.
gate next to these guys.
Yeah, I know. Like it's like the Oaks family. They're a Dirty Fest. It's like it's cool.
Yeah.
I met your wife last year, and she's a lovely person, and you've been there the last few years. Your dad and your kids.
Yeah.
Uh, yeah, it's great, man.
We,
We have to name a turn after you guys or something. The Oaks hairpin or something like that.
yeah. Yeah, that it is so much fun. We love it. I'm a huge advocate for just getting families involved in it.
Yeah. Yeah,
And
that's the key, man. I'll tell you, this is another little tidbit. My family, I was an only child for until, believe it or not, in high school, my parents had two more kids. I was an only child my whole childhood, pretty much. Um, and my parents were pretty involved. My dad was really involved, but we had kids at our track whose parents were not involved at all. Um, I remember one morning we're driving out to the track because as a track operator, you got to be the first one there, pretty much. And we're on the way to the track. It's probably like 8 o'clock in the morning, and we pass by these two kids on their BMX bikes with their helmets hanging on their handlebars, and we're like 15 miles away from the track. And I told my dad, I was like, "Hey, that's so and so and so and so. They race at our track." And my dad turned around and then pulled over in front of him, and he said, "What are you guys doing?" He said, "We're riding to the track." And they had already ridden like 10 miles. They lived like 25 miles away from the track, and they were riding their bikes to the track to race. And my dad was like, "Well, how are you going to get home?" He's like, "We're going to ride our bikes." And my dad was just he was amazed, but he was kind of upset because these kids, they were like maybe 13 or 14 years old, and they're driving down like a 4-lane highway, kind of riding their bikes. And from that point on, my dad would drive down to where they lived and pick them up and would take them to the race like every weekend. He would get up early, drive to this town called Hopewell, and pick them up and drive them to the track and then take them home after the race. But
Wow.
it was crazy. And so it kind of, I know a lot of kids that whose parents weren't involved that could have had a lot more success if their parents were involved. And when I think about that, I, sometimes I feel bad, but I didn't, nobody gets to choose who their parents are. I just happen to have a dad that was willing to drag me all over the country.
Yeah.
So,
Well,
and that's what you got to do. It's like, you only have one chance with your kids, and you got to give it your all.
absolutely. Yeah, my dad did that as well with a lot of my friends and my brother's friends and stuff. And
Hmm.
I don't know. I mean, I can't even tell you the number of bikes that my dad's given away to
Yeah.
different kids and that needed a bike or friends of mine. And growing up, I had a really close friend, and my dad would always help him
Hmm.
to get the parts that he needed. And
Yeah.
a phenomenal rider. He was a great person. He would go on vacations with us. I mean, my
Hmm.
dad took him on a trip or took us all to Southern California for a couple weeks and took us to Woodward West. And
Oh, yeah. That's cool.
my friend would basically, I mean, he was just a part of the family. And um, and I was talking to him. I mean, this would have been like 6, 7 years ago now. And he goes, "Oh yeah, your dad's still like a major part of my life." And I said, "Oh, how come?" And I just wanted to know more.
Right.
And he goes, "Well, I mean, your dad was the one that supported me in riding bikes. I never would have done what I did because my family didn't have the same level of support or encouragement for it
Right.
that your dad did."
Right.
And obviously, as you get to see now, is my dad's still passionate about riding bikes and very
Yeah.
supportive.
Yeah. Yeah. He's supportive of our efforts. That's for sure. We appreciate everything your dad does.
Yeah, it's pretty
So,
cool. Yeah, because I think my favorite thing about riding too is just when I tell people, like, yeah, when we're with my dad, there's 3 generations of our family out on the track.
yeah, I remember at DirtyFest 1 that uh, when it was all over with, I was thinking about like the highlights of the weekend for me, like my personal highlights, um, and seeing you guys on the track together was like top three, definitely. The the
That's
the, uh,
cool.
the other one was there was a little SE kid. Um, I think you remember who I'm talking about. I wish I could
Ta-
remember his name, but
Tater
there's a
tot?
picture. Yeah, I think so. Yeah, and they were handing out the awards on Sunday, and I think it was his mom maybe was holding him, and he was just crashed. He was like completely exhausted, out of it,
Yeah,
asleep.
yeah. Just he has the biggest smile.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
And
yeah.
and he is one of his parents walked up to receive the
Uh,
award because he was just
yeah,
sleeping on
yeah.
their shoulder.
There's a great photo of that somewhere, and then there was Todd Todd and Lila riding together,
Yeah,
and like those two on their bikes the whole weekend. It was crazy,
yeah.
crazy. And
That that girl does not quit.
no, no, she is awesome. And then she got punted over the berm in the pit bike race.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah,
Yeah,
remember that? Yeah, we were like, oh no, she
yeah.
got hurt, but she didn't get hurt. She was fine. But man,
Yeah, that was the year that yeah, that was the first
'Cause
year Haro
we
gave
didn't.
us a bunch of bikes to
Yeah,
use.
we didn't do the pit bike race last year because we had that bad rainstorm. But yeah.
Yeah. And she
So
was racing against was it John Kerr? I think
oh
he
yeah,
he
yeah.
was like 10 years old from Grand Prix,
Okay.
and I think like he came across the line, and I don't know if Mike was the announcer or something, but
Mhm.
he's like disqualify whoever the announcer was like
Yeah, it was probably I
what
think
just happened.
it was probably Mike. Yeah, yeah,
That was
yeah.
fun.
And then when I real think about it, it's like the three highlights. It wasn't like seeing all my the the guys I idolized. It was seeing like the next generation out there. It was seeing the families riding together, and that was the highlight. And I'm like, wow, you know, I thought it would be, seeing my idols, but it wasn't. It was seeing you guys and Todd and Lila and the little SE guy out there, having a blast. And that's the cool thing about it. It's like a reunion for us old guys, but it's also it it's an opportunity for all the young people to see kind of where the sport came from, and we're trying to. Um, One of the things that we want to do is kind of educate the younger generation on the history of the sport, because a lot of the kids that race these days, they don't really know where the sport came from. It's just something that they're doing now, and it's evolved, it's different, and there's people that love it and there's people that hate it now, but it all came from the same place. And
Yeah.
you know it 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 is what it is. It, it changed my life, that's for sure. Because when I was finally finished racing, I was no longer a shy, quiet kid. I was able to speak in public and have conversations with people and not feel uncomfortable. So that was the big thing it did for me. It built my confidence.
No, I think that ties in with one of the biggest things that I can attribute to my time in racing BMX is that I because of BMX, I think that's the reason I never saw age as a differentiator
Hmm.
in our
Yeah.
relationship.
Right.
Because in a lot of team sports, typically someone older than you is going to be an authority figure, whereas in BMX, someone older than you can be a friend.
Right. Right.
And so being able to talk to people, you also have to be able to talk to people that are older
Right.
than you and on different teams and be able to approach people. And
Yeah.
so I think that's cool.
Yeah. Well, and like when I got sponsored, it was like it sort of changed my whole kind of outlook on things. I was before I got sponsored, I was just out there having fun, enjoying myself. But then when I got sponsored, all of a sudden there was like this responsibility because I was representing a team and a product, and I would go to races all over the country, and people would cheer for me that I've never even seen in my entire life, but they knew who I was. And so you'd have to um, kind of remember that you're a role model and you're representing something bigger than yourself. Um, and that kind of matured me a bit. And um, yeah, just it changed the outlet. It was not any less fun, but it was just kind of changed that the way I had to look at things. So
Yeah, absolutely. I think there is a level of maturity that's really healthy to
mhm.
a level of growing up that's healthy, and then there's obviously kids that go through situations where they have to grow up a lot faster than they
Right,
need
right,
to,
right.
which is a different. But I think that the maturity that comes from an individual sport where you have to learn is. I remember watching Oliver at 4 years old, or even just this last year, the last 2 years, watching Ashlyn and Oliver go up and get into staging on their own
Hmm.
at any race. And
Yeah.
but then this last year, a huge moment for me was watching Ashlyn, I would go up to staging and I would hear that she was up there, and I'd go up and she's hanging out with two friends, two girls that she just met that weekend,
Yeah.
and they've now become best friends and they're racing against each other on the track and they're making jokes and
Yeah. Yeah.
nothing more, nothing cooler than seeing that.
Yeah. And I see your kids once or twice a year, and every time I see them, since I don't see them every day, um, every time I see them, they're like they've sprouted up even more, and they're more mature, and it's like I'm witnessing them grow up, but not on a daily basis, and it's pretty cool. It's cool seeing that, and
Yeah,
because
that's fun.
my kids are grown. I have two grown kids, and my son he's 16, and he never really got into the sport, which is fine. He does his own thing, but yeah, because like that's a great age when they're pretty young like that. Uh,
Yeah.
everything's kind of new and fun,
And I'm
and
trying to just keep it as fun as
yeah,
possible
yeah,
because
I do that because one of the things that I kind of crushed my desire to race was like the politics of my dad being a track operator kind of um yeah like when I mentioned earlier that there were parents that complained that the track was too hard and this kind of stuff. There was a faction of parents that didn't like how things were running, but they didn't want to get involved and help. And so seeing all that and just seeing my dad come home after giving it his all and just kind of being disgusted with the whole thing really didn't help me want to continue doing what I was doing. And so that was kind of another part of the my retirement plan, not my plan, but kind
yeah,
of another reason why I started to just not have the interest in continuing on with the sport.
yeah, I get
Yeah.
it. It makes it tough because
Yeah.
yeah, those politics get involved and
Yeah.
it
Yeah.
just takes some of that fun out of it. And,
But on a whole, it was the best experience of my life. It shaped who I am today. Wouldn't trade it for the world. Um, yeah, it was awesome, and look, I've created friendships that have lasted, 40 some years, like there's one guy, Jeff Reed, who we raced all the time, and we still razz each other to this day. Um, and he would do anything for me, I would do anything for him. And I'm trying to kick his butt, sorry, and get him out to Dirty Fest. But it's like it's a unique sport that creates a lot of great things, and one of them was the friendships that I created. So,
absolutely. And I think the dynamic that you can also have, and I think friendships, you can be you
mhm.
fighting each other on the track and then you get
Yeah,
off the track and you're friends. And at the same time, you can be in the gate in the same chute. You can be almost to the gate. You can be talking to somebody and right next to you that you're going to race against and go, how are you getting over that double so fast? And they tell you.
yeah,
They'll tell you. And one of my other moments from Dirty Fest this last year was racing in the retro class, and I think in the main, no, it was our semi, and in our semi we had EC, Cheeseburger, Robert Taylor, Ethan Carter, myself, and someone else, and
that's a stacked race right there, man.
it was so much fun. And we're coming down, and my wife got pictures of this, and Robert Taylor and I are battling. We had blocked out Ethan. He was behind us. We were battling for the last transfer spot, trying to get third. And we come into the last. We were in that in the whoops moguls section,
Right, right.
and we come into that, and we're distracted. Well, Ethan flies down the inside, takes the
Hmm.
inside line, and passes us both. And I got along around the finish, or got past the finish line, and I was just smiling the whole time because it was such a cool race.
Yeah, yeah.
And
Like
yeah,
that was I saw that race. That was awesome.
and it was, I mean, neither Robert or I made the main, but it was such a fun race. It didn't
Right.
matter.
No.
We were just having a good
Yeah,
time.
that's the EC and Ethan, they were down there like looking at the lines, and um Eric is probably one of the best teachers of racecraft out there ever. And Ethan just totally took it all in and listened to what his dad was saying, and then he pulled the move, and he suckered you guys, man.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, it was fun though. And looking back at
Yeah,
the photos, it's like we just get tangled and he comes up the inside and
yeah,
but those stories, those moments, it's
yeah.
just
That's an indelible memory that will always be there.
yeah.
You know,
Yeah. And you always have that connection. So I mean, we can be 10, 15 years down the road and we're not
right,
even racing together and we can
right.
still be talking about that moment.
Yeah, yeah,
So, yeah, it's pretty fun, but I appreciate what your dad has done just hearing your stories and obviously it's really cool the photos
yeah,
that he
hmm
took and the
yeah.
amount of effort that he invested into because I mean, apparently attorneys don't have I mean, they pretty much don't do anything. They've got lots of free time,
No,
right?
no, not at all. Yeah, my dad, I don't know how he crammed it all in.
And a bike shop is another easy thing to
Yeah,
run.
yeah.
Doesn't require any time.
Well, my dad, he had a partner that actually was at the bike shop all the time or most of the time, and my dad was there a lot of the time. Um, but Mr. Nelson, whose two kids raced, Timmy and Danny Nelson, that he was at the bike shop most of the time. So it wasn't like my dad was a full-time attorney and a full-time bike shop owner. He was at the bike shop a lot, but he did continue his day job. Danny Nelson, that dude still rides today, man. He works at Chad Powers Bike Shop. You know Powers Bike Shop? Ever heard of it?
Yeah,
Yeah. So Danny works at Powers Bike Shop and rides still rides today, man. He's still getting it.
that is
Um,
awesome.
yeah, yeah. We're like if you're ever on the East Coast or in this area, you got to go to that guy's bike shop. It is amazing. He has a huge collection of unrestored BMX history in that place. It's amazing. His museum is it's like this stuff I've never seen before except at that
That's
place.
awesome.
So yeah,
I've wanted to go there
yeah.
for a very long time.
Yeah,
And
Chad, he's an awesome dude, man. He honestly, I had no idea that Richmond, Virginia's BMX scene was so big. Even though I live here, I'm not really involved locally with the sport. Um, but we have there's a big jump contest here every year, and I went one year and I was like, holy crap, this is huge. And then last earlier this I guess late last year, Chris Moeller was in town for it.
yeah,
I was like, I wish I'd known he was going to be here. I would have gone out to say hey to him. But yeah, it's like Chad has definitely created a BMX scene. Well, helped create. There's a lot of people involved in it, but his involvement in BMX here in town, um, it's amazing. It's like I'm trying to get Mike to come out here because there's a every year they do a Battle of the Decades race, which is like their version of a vintage race. Um, and I'm trying to get Mike to come out this year for it. So he said he would. I need to hold him
okay,
to it.
that's
But anyway,
awesome.
yeah.
That's pretty cool.
Well, I know you have to get going, but I can stay as long as you need
Yeah,
to stay. So
no, unfortunately, I should probably wrap things up. I got a few things that I need to do, but
that's cool.
um,
We can do a part two one day if you want.
we could. Yeah, that
Yeah,
would be really cool.
and we can talk about other stuff other than I know it's like all about me right now, but we can
That
talk about other stuff if you want.
that was the plan.
Well,
Um, no, I will just I guess I will say I did get to race against Mike at the old school race in Texas.
Yeah, that's what I
And
heard.
so, yeah, apparently it was funny. Right after we got done racing, and I can't remember which moto we had finished up, but Mike comes over to me and he goes, "Hey, JV just texted me and goes, 'Good job beating Jay.'" And his response was, "Where are you getting this information? Like, is there a live stream somewhere?"
Yeah,
No. No, but it's the Battle of the Decades race sounds pretty awesome.
yeah, it's cool, and they have like a side hack race, and
Oh,
it's not it's cool. But it's not on the same level as a Dirty Fest. But they're doing it in conjunction with the regular local race too. So there's modern racing, and then there's racing on vintage bikes on the modern track. So it's
oh, gotcha.
kind of cool. Yeah,
That's awesome.
yeah,
Cool. Well, yeah, Justin, it's been fun talking to you.
yeah.
Um,
It's always good to see you.
I wish I didn't have
I
to run.
No, no, I get it. I appreciate you helping me out with the Radical Rick book a while back. That was a huge favor for me. Appreciate that.
Absolutely. Yeah,
But
sorry it took so long. I mean, I got it
uh,
purchased, but then
hey,
it took a
guess
long
what?
time to get it to you.
It's still in the box. I haven't even looked at
Hey, mine's
it.
still in the box too.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I'm looking forward to seeing you and your wife and your children out there at Dirty Fest. You coming out early, right?
Yeah. Yeah, we'll be out there
Okay.
early
Good. Good.
and then I think we'll be
Good.
staying a
Yeah.
little bit late. So,
Yeah, it's good. It's because like when the event is actually in full swing, I don't have a lot of time to hang out. But
no.
the prep beforehand, I can hang out with you and catch up and just just once the show starts, man.
It's game on.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it is. Long hours, low pay,
Yeah, exactly.
but it's seeing all the smiles and everybody having a great time. It's totally worth it. So
Yeah, I get it. It's that's pretty cool. But no, I appreciate the time that you took out of your schedule to have a
yeah, yeah,
conversation and
no problem, man.
being able
Anytime.
to talk and share about
I,
your
lo-
dad.
I love what you're doing. It's something that's been needed for a long time, and
Awesome.
yeah,
Well, thanks, Justin.
keep it up, man.
I appreciate it.
All
I'll
right.
work at it.
Yeah.
Cool.
All
Well,
right.
have a
Take
great
it
day.
easy. Yeah,
Sounds
you too.
good. Take care.
Thank you for joining us in today's episode. It is because of people like you and our sponsors who make this whole thing possible because they have a desire to see the sport grow. If you would like to get involved in the mission of BMX Breakthrough, you can start by going to your local track, find a way to volunteer, help out, and serve there. Or you can go to our website, bmxbreakthrough.com, in order to donate, find out about sponsorship, or learn more.